It is better to enlighten men's minds than to teach them to be obstinate in their prejudices. I created this video because my experience has shown me that people most often have only a rudimentary understanding of religion and its relationship to society, and this is particularly true of my religion, Christianity. There's an understanding of this for children, and there's another understanding of religion that's quite different for adults. In this video, I plan to compare the philosophy of Christianity, of anarchism, and communism, otherwise known as progressivism. I most often refer to communism as progressivism in this video, and define the basis, and part of the purpose of this video is to define the basis of these three different systems. I hope to show that while many people consider themselves to be something other than Christians, are in fact Christians in their belief of the basic principles of right and wrong. And this makes them lawful Christians, and religion is really about law. The religion forms the substrate for society because it forms the universals from which courts operate, and society is really a system of laws. And a Christian court is very different than, say, a Islamic court or a Talmudic Jewish court. These have different basic structures, and your rights are very different under these three systems. Western society is being ideologically destroyed, so there's literally a war on reason and conscience, and these are the ideas that Christianity is really all about. The other religions have a lot of statutes and laws, and Christianity is really about reason and conscience, otherwise known as logos. Much of it came from Greek philosophy. Words, ideas, and ideals have been twisted and turned upside down, and the slow destruction of Christianity is really part of the New World Order plan. Planks of the Communist Manifesto, number 27, shows their plan to destroy Christianity. Infiltrate the churches and replace revealed religion with social religion. Discredit the Bible and emphasize the need for intellectual maturity, which does not need a religious crutch. When first coming to realize this conspiracy, I decided to look at it from a rational point of view rather than that of a historicist. I'm naturally inclined that way towards rationalism, and I find that historians in the truth movement are excellent. I watch a lot of their videos. I couldn't add anything of value in that context, but I also think that the truth movement is very short on pure rationalism or pure philosophy, and this is where I intend to make a contribution. My first experience with history was reading a book about the German Holocaust. As an 11-year-old, I had questions regarding how this could happen. No one could give me really a rational explanation other than to say that Hitler was a madman. And nobody could provide me with any real motive for this. And so I came away from that thinking, well, history doesn't really have to make sense to most people. Since YouTube, I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos on historians being interviewed regarding their books, and lots of different historians. I watch a lot of stuff that runs contrary to my own opinion. To really read history, you have to read a lot of different stuff from a lot of different viewpoints, and even that is just a small point in time. You could spend a lifetime, say, trying to figure out what happened between 1810 and 1820. So I've been reading philosophy seriously since about 2001. I wanted to get an understanding of the New World Order from that point of view. So I started with Plato and Aristotle and worked myself up to Kant and some stuff past Kant. Primarily, I'm a Kantian. Most people don't know much about this great philosopher, but he's probably quoted as much as any of the Greeks, any of the ancient Greeks. His philosophy is on the true, the good, and the beautiful, and in the case of the true, that being the nature of truth, the good, that being the subject of ethics, and the beautiful, that being the subject of aesthetics. Now these are his first, second, and third critiques, and each one is taken seriously within its respective discipline. You find art students reading the third critique of judgment. You find ethics people referencing and talking about Kant. And the critique of pure reason, although not often read by science people is often very well respected by the science people who do read it. Kant is an academic philosophy, so it's not the kind of philosophy that's going to tell you what you should do in a specific circumstance. Like, say, Sun Tzu, that Chinese philosopher of war. It's a very different kind of a book. It's a pure academic philosophy, which means it doesn't really talk about particular experiences. In addition to this, I've read some of the seminal works of the Frankfurt School and materialism. I've read some of the German ideology and to get the basic ideas behind Marxism. And I've read monetary reform and government think tank reports pertaining to the successful formation of a world government. One of those reports being the quotation that follows.
Love, ah love, could thou and I with fate conspire to grasp the sorry scheme of things entire? Would not we shatter it to bits and then remold it nearer to the heart's desire?
I'm primarily interested in the philosophy of freedom and wish to demonstrate that freedom is attained only through universal laws in this presentation. It's likely that no philosopher since Plato and Aristotle has been quoted so much as Kant, and Kant was an Enlightenment philosopher in Germany who lived between 1724 and 1804. His first book, The Critique of Pure Reason, on which all of his subsequent works are based, was first published in 1781 with the second edition in 1787. Like Aristotle, Kant's philosophy was extremely wide-ranging, and he's been very, very well quoted in all kinds of fields, not only philosophy, but biology and cosmology and other fields as well. Back then they were natural scientists. Kant took the ideas of Plato and Aristotle and really united them in terms of human perception. So oftentimes people that have only read pre-Kantian philosophy describe themselves as either being Platonists, idealists, or Aristotelians, believing that the world is comprised of matter. The Critique of Pure Reason unites these two and further abstracts and refines this great Greek philosophy. He gets a lot of criticism from progressives, and rightfully so. He's a philosopher of freedom, and this is something that the progressive world very much stands against, at least the Christian understanding of freedom. The progressive understanding of freedom is more of a return to nature. The Christian idea is to rise above nature and have absolute universals.
The nebular hypothesis is the most widely accepted model in the field of cosmology to explain the formation and evolution of the solar system. It suggests that the solar system formed from nebulous material. The theory was developed by Immanuel Kant. With the possible exception of Plato's Republic, the Critique of Pure Reason is the most important philosophical book ever written. Quoting Professor Oliver Johnson, Ian P. McGreal, great thinkers of the Western world.
Kant defined freedom and placed limits on how far reason can take man. He argued that the world cannot possibly exist as we see it, and brings philosophy to a critical crossroads in the Critique of Pure Reason. Kant shows that to believe that the world exists as we see it is as much of a leap of faith as to believe that in a deity. Kant shows, using pure reason, that the world cannot exist as we see it. This is the basis for Kantian philosophy. He said over 200 years ago what theoretical physicists often say today. Kant did not get his recognition by being born into the right family. He grew up Christian and middle class. His rise to fame was based solely on his own abilities. I was partly inspired to create this video from a famous Donald Rumsfeld quote. There are things we know, things we don't know, and things we don't know that we don't know. The subject matter of this video will be about things forgotten, something Rumsfeld didn't include in his quote. It's the things that we have forgotten that is partly responsible for the New World Order way of thinking that we are being led towards. Lots of people create and invent new ideas and post them up on YouTube. This video doesn't have any new ideas. It only covers older ideas and mostly ideas from the philosopher Immanuel Kant, and it is on the subject of freedom. I'm going to provide a rational critique of progressivism and anarchism, and this will be through the lens of rational law. Kant spoke against what we see growing around us, the New World Order, because he thought it was a ridiculous idea in itself. He writes about this in Religion Within the Boundaries of Mere Reason, and calls this doctrine chiliasm. And I'm going to be getting into that more later. It is a fundamental violation of his categorical imperative, the ideals and goals of the United Nations. And the categorical imperative is the one thing that most people know Kant for. Most people that go through university read some Kant at one point or another. He doesn't give the New World Order philosophy enough attention to really say a lot about it, but the little he does say about it really speaks volumes. He would have, when the New World Order became sort of known, he would have been deep in his own works around the end of the Critique of Pure Reason and into the second Critique of Practical Reason, and possibly the Critique of Judgment, as well as other books that he's written. Kant is really about the world of is versus ought. So there's a world of materialism, a world governed by cause and effect, and a world governed by free will, the ought. So we think of things how they ought to be in ethical terms, and this is, and so the world is really comprised of sort of an is side, the side that science more or less describes, and the world of ought, the area of morality and ethics, and there's really no mixing the two.